state and local grants. And you know, a lot of these grants are bonds that have been passed over the years by all of us within the state or at the federal level. Sometimes if there's an endangered species listed like the coho salmon, we will be on the forefront of a lot of those grants, implementing projects on private and government lands to enhance those waterways for the fisheries. So those are the kind of funds that we apply for from our staff. They put those grants together, and if they're awarded, they manage them and move them along and accomplish the projects. We get some foundation grants. There's a small amount there, and the individual contracts is somebody we call it a fee for service, but an individual contract where if somebody had a project and they needed help, and they needed they got a call from water agency or the regional board or somebody, and they needed some help complying with some regulations, or they wanted to do a project, we could help them with those permits and design work to get those projects completed. So that's a small part of what we do also. I think at this point I'm going to hand it off to Brittany, and Brittany is I say she's the hub of the wheel. I'm just on the outside kind of floating around once in a while, but Brittany works and has started here. She's been here 10 years now at the RCD and has worked her way up from an intern to be the executive director, and has done a wonderful job coordinating the staff, the community, and the agencies that we work with to, I feel, bring the RCD, the Gold Ridge RCD, up to be one of the most respectable in the state as far as the types of projects we have done, the work we get accomplished, and the recognition that we have from the landowners to get these projects on the ground. So now I'm going to hand it over to Brittany.
Thanks, Joe. If you guys all can't hear me, raise your hand because I have a very quiet voice. I was thinking on my way here that the RCDs, so they were originally called soil conservation districts after the Dust Bowl, and since we work on more than just soil now, they are resource conservation districts. And Joe, in particular, today asked us to talk about water. And so we give you all this background, so now we can kind of talk about something that's on a lot of our minds right now. Yeah? Thank you. So these are some of the types of projects that aren't related to water necessarily on private lands that we do. So we do a lot of education to elementary schools. We do monitoring, planning, and community outreach. So we do a lot of technical workshops on erosion control or stream restoration and things of that nature. We also have been doing a lot of work on pollinator habitat, so making sure that the bees we do have left have enough food and forage and homes to be able to survive. As Joe mentioned, we also assist people with regulatory compliance. So when new regulations come down, like some of you may know, some of you may be in the watersheds where you've gotten emergency drought regulation notices where you have to turn in your informational use and mandatory conservation. That's something that we assist people with, as well as soil conservation and soil health. Water is the most critical resource issue of our lifetime and our children's lifetime, and the health of our waters is the principal measure of how we live on the land. And we really believe that that is true. So these are the types of projects we're currently working on in relation to water. We do a lot of projects to enhance salmon habitat. So the coho salmon are federally endangered. Back in the late 90s, I think only 8 returned to the watershed, where there used to be tens of thousands of coho salmon. There is a broodstock program now, but we are working to do what we can on the streams in this area to make sure that there's enough water and habitat for the fish that have survived. As well as we've been working a lot on water conservation and climate adaptation projects, as well as water quality improvement projects on agricultural and urban lands. So this is just a quick example I wanted to just show you guys because I'm going to focus mostly on water conservation and water storage, but these are some examples of the types of projects we do for salmon habitat improvement. We do in the upper, that's your left-hand corner, we do stream bank stabilization projects. The lower, these are weirs for fish passage, so that's so fish can make sure that fish can move through some of the steep altered parts of the creeks. And this top picture, which you can't even really tell what it is, we put in big wood structures for salmon so that the young salmon have a place to hide from predators in the summer and also create pools so So when the flows are really low, that the salmon have a place to have cold, oxygenated water, which is essential for their over summer survival. And a project we've been focusing really a lot for the past 8 years is roof water catchment. So we get most of, as you know, in the Mediterranean climate, we get most of our rain in the winter, but most of our water use occurs in the summer. So there's this big difference between when we get water and when we need water. And one of the ways that helps to bring it into balance is doing roof water catchment. And I love this statistic because only 1,000 square feet of roof area for 1 inch of rain gives you 623 gallons of water. So you can imagine, on average, even on a low year, is like 24 inches of rain out here. That's a lot of water that can be harvested from your roof. We started this project in the Salmon Creek watershed, so around the Bodega area that drains out from the north of Bodega Bay through the top of Occidental. We've done 13 residential scale rainwater catchment tanks, the volumes ranging from 9,000 to 39,000 gallons. The total volume for 236,000 gallons in the town of Bodega. Bodega's water supply is from shallow wells near the creek, and it is habitat for coho salmon and steelhead. And so in the summer, when they're pumping water to supply the residents, the creek is being drawn down in a way that the coho salmon and steelhead have a hard time surviving. So if we augment the landowner's water supply with rainwater catchment, then they don't need to pump as much water out of the creek, and there's more water left for the fish. And most of because of permitting laws, rainwater catchment is really only used for outdoor non-potable uses. But we are working with the state to try and figure out how we can create systems where people can actually use the water inside their homes as well. Another project that I thought I would bring up, because a lot of people here have a connection with Westminster Woods, they pump directly out of Dutchbill Creek, which is some of the best habitat for steelhead and coho in this area, to irrigate their lawns. So last year we replaced their lawns and irrigation system so that they save approximately, I think, 300,000 gallons a year just from that switch of their irrigation and grass type, as well as we are putting in big tanks that are filled by springs so that they don't have to pump out of the creek in the summer, that they can use the spring water that's collected over the winter to irrigate in the summer. We also did an underground tank, which you can see in this lower picture. It's kind of blurry, but those black things are a series of 7-foot culverts that catch water from the barn, pictured in the top. And again, this is on Salmon Creek. So this is water for livestock use. So this tank, these are all sized to fill even in a drought year. So they have filled every single year. This has been in place for about 4 years now. It's a 235,000 gallon tank. And then it is buried underground, so you cannot see it. So the cows walk on top of it, grass grows on top of it. And this is a project we're currently constructing now. If you drive by towards Bodega, the Westview, Mountain View, Jersey Dairy, so those are the small brown cows out there in Bodega. We're building a 1.4 million gallon pond, which is 4.3 acre feet off of roof catchment. So in the top is kind of an aerial view of the dairy, and we're collecting water from all of his barns, which is almost an acre of roof space, into a 1.4 million gallon pond. And currently, he pumps about 7,000 gallons a day of water out of a shallow near stream well, which affects stream flow. And with this new pond, he'll be able to use that all summer long instead of pumping out of Salmon Creek. And I think that was mostly what we had about water. I wanted to keep it a little bit short and sweet for you all. I just wanted to tell you that all the money that we bring in, we try and hire local contractors, use local consultants, local engineers, goes to the staff, manufacturers, local equipment suppliers, businesses, and nurseries. So we really try and make sure that the money we bring in from the state and federal government stays local here. If you want more information on Goldridge RCD, which we are most of your local RCD, that's our website up there. There's also a website for the state and the national conservation districts. And thank you very much.
Questions?
One of the best ways to minimize erosion and protect watersheds and things like that is with vegetation.
Yeah.
The biggest fire risk now is excessive vegetation. Going forward, how do you see those things balancing out as the area seems to be getting drier? Are you looking at different types of plants that don't provide as much fuel for the fires, or what? How's that going to work out?
Well, I think I have two answers. The first one is with a big focus on soil health. So we've been looking a lot at increasing soil organic matter, which increases water holding capacity. So in our pasture lands, making sure that the vegetation actually stays greener longer, and which helps with a number of things, even carbon sequestration. As far as fuel loads in forest lands, we've been trying really hard to get funding and help landowners do forest thinning projects and fuel load reduction projects. With the landscape around here, it's a lot of small parcels, and a lot of those folks don't qualify to get any kind of grant funding. But if neighbors start pooling together, then they can create kind of a forest management plan of a certain amount of acreage, and then they can get funding to help do fuel load reductions. We have written actually probably about 5 grants to do that exact thing, and none of them have been funded recently, but maybe after this year they'll see more funding.
There's probably a little more incentive to fund that granting now.
Yeah.
What's the minimum acreage though?
You know, I think, I don't quote me on this, but I think that you have to have basically a timber harvest plan or a version thereof, and I think I want to say it's 50 acres. So I think we're pooling, yeah.
What's the, I've thought about this on my own land. I'm on a well, and water runoff off of my roof goes into the ground and ultimately, I think, down to the aquifer. What is the analysis or thinking in terms of the comparative advantages of catching the water at the surface as opposed to allowing it to percolate down into the aquifer? There must be some advantage. I know certainly you don't have the cost of extracting, the pump cost of extracting, but is there some loss as well that we're looking at when you catch that on the surface?
The way we think about that is we have paved and created a hard surface on so much of our landscape that when it rains, a lot of that water runs off much faster than it would naturally, so it's not actually penetrating into the aquifer as much as it normally would. And so part of what we're doing is we're capturing a little bit of that water that maybe would normally go into the soil that is shooting off, and we're storing it for later use so that it's percolating back into the soil at a later time. And that's kind of how we think about it, because there are a lot of ways to change the landscape to increase the amount of water when it does rain, to absorb instead of to flow off. So it's a global problem, pretty much, that we have so many of our surfaces that when it rains we get more flooding, and it's flashier floods and higher floods, because the water all just goes so fast. It's like we've created these highways for water. And so part of that rainwater capture is we're actually capturing the water when it's raining really hard, and then we're storing it for later use, so that it's going back, it's all going back into the soil at a later date.
So I guess then your buildings represent a hard surface that prevent the complete percolation of the water.
And roads, and all kinds of things, or even compacted soil.
Well, in that case, you'd also see a lot of that water, because of those hard surfaces, going in streams and creeks, and then going into the lagoon and then out. So you get some erosion, you're going to lose more in the flow.
Yeah, and those increased flows cause stream erosion and downgrading. So if you all live near creeks, almost everyone has the experience that in the higher parts of the watershed in the hills, their creeks have dropped a lot. Because they all used to be able to walk across, and now it's 20 feet deep. And the people in the lower part of the watershed, they're like, it's flooding more, and it used to look like a creek, and now it looks like a swamp, and that's because all the soil from the top of the watershed has rushed down and filled in the lower part of the watershed.
Has there been any thought towards requiring new vineyard developers to do this kind of catchment to water their grapes like the cow people do?
That would be, that's not, the RCD doesn't create requirements, but we have been looking into a lot of vineyards put in a tile drain so that they say vineyard feet don't like to be wet, something like that. So they put in these basically structures that drains the water out of the soil faster. And so we've been talking about trying to figure out how to fund and place ponds that capture that water when it's raining, that's coming off the tile drains, to fill the ponds to irrigate. And a lot of the newer vineyards are doing that. One, because they probably don't have another source of water, that is their source of water for vine establishment. But as far as that being a county requirement, that would be probably through the VESCO process, through the county department of ag or the ag commissioner's office. Because they create the laws on how that happens. I think there's that.
Having lived out there for about 20+ years, Atascadero Creek is a problem. I say it's a problem because it's silted in down where it joins Green Valley Creek. And there's as much as 3 feet of water on Green Valley Road in the wintertime. And yet we're not allowed to do any stream maintenance. How do we fight that?
Interesting you ask, but the Goldridge RCD has been hired to try and find a solution to that problem, and we've been working on it for about a year, working with the landowners upstream and downstream of that flooding location on Green Valley Road. And it's really complicated because it is silted in, and we've done projections, and the amount of sediment coming down is still going to be coming down. So even if we did dredge it out, it might only last for a year or two. And because there are endangered species there, it seems like it would be something that would be very difficult to do. So we are going to be having a public meeting on that topic, so I'll make sure I send it to Joe to send to the Rotary. We're going to be telling people what we've learned so far and what the possible options are, and what the county's planning to do about it, and maybe what the potential options are. And that should be in mid-October. We're trying to settle between October 14th and 19th, so we'll make sure that we
But
can do
there are
that.
2 creeks that are involved.
Yeah,
not just
Atascadero
Atascadero
and
is the
Greenvale.
one that's in.
Yeah.
You mentioned that we were working with the state to make some of this water potable. I
Yeah.
wonder what agency regulates that?
Well, I think it's, I mean, as far as I understand, there's like state plumbing code, so that's part of it, which is beyond me, and the Department of Health. So because they consider rainwater stormwater, I think, and so even though a lot of times it's cleaner than your well water, the way it's categorized at the state makes it, the amount of treatment you have to do to use it in your house, nearly impossible for any individual to afford. And so it's really changing the way they categorize it, and because there's lots of other states and places in the world where they do it, so we just need to kind of get up to speed here. Yeah.
Hi, Brittany, I just wondered, San Francisco area Boy Scouts have a camp out of Royanay, and they've had it for almost 100 years. Recently, it's been in the Press Democrat, the story about at one of the isolated ends of the camp, somebody had set up a marijuana growing operation, has destroyed some of their land there and so forth in the runoff. Do you advise and help organizations like that that have issues like this on their property?
We've been talking about this for a few years, and I would love to say yes. One thing, it's hard to get funding to do because a lot of times there's toxic chemicals, and it's dangerous, and our staff aren't trained to deal with those kinds of circumstances. We've been working with the Sheriff's Department to talk about what we might do together, but the Sheriff's Department needs so much funding just to do their flyovers and finding them and figuring out if they're legal or illegal and how to demobilize them, that there really hasn't been a good way to figure out how to do that. But we have advised people on especially erosion control afterwards, because usually they just bulldoze things. And as far as the kind of toxic waste stuff, that's a little bit of a pickle, but it is a really good, it's a strong need, and it would be great to be able to do more of that.
What would you like neighbors to do?
About marijuana growth or in general?
Or both. Catch the water.
I mean, I think that what we try and think a lot when we visit people's properties is we try and look at everything. We try and look at, how much water are you using? Is it the most efficient? Where is the water going when it leaves your property? Is it causing any kind of erosion? Do you want wildlife habitat? I think right now the biggest thing is, storing water. So I think you can afford to do it, to put in your own rainwater catchment system is a huge help. Even if you are on wells or things, I think it makes a big difference. And once you get this system in, it's essentially free water.
I just wanted to present you guys these two small gifts as a token of our appreciation that you're coming and doing the presentation. And I have one more task for you to come over, please. You have a door prize thing. Pull a, nice, what the number is.
518-6844.
Rich get richer.
Oh, you beat me to it,
There's
man.
the draw and then run out of town too.
I felt lucky, right?
So, all right, thank you. Thank you very much.
You got a
All right.
Okay.
Look at our ace of something. Oh, no, it's great. It's supposed to be an ace, but not an ace.
You need somebody to water that here in Europe.
Oh, I didn't get my selfie with those guys, but I don't want to do that soon. And Kay McFerrin is the benefactor here. And I want to mention next week, coming up, Jasper O'Farrell, history of Jasper O'Farrell. He's not the speaker. Somebody who knows everyone will be right in there.
Okay, yeah, it's been 3 years. I think I've been banished from television. Well, I've toned this one down, so Marty won't be commenting on it for 6 years. Okay, so she was standing in the kitchen preparing our usual soft-boiled eggs and toast for breakfast, wearing only the t-shirt that she normally slept in. As I walked in, almost awake, she turned to me and said softly, "You've got to make love to me this very moment." Ooh. My eyes lit up and I thought, I'm either still dreaming or this is going to be a really good day. Not wanting to lose the moment, I embraced her and then gave her all I got, right there, right then on the kitchen table. Afterwards, she said, "Thanks," and returned to the stove, her t-shirt still around her neck. Happy but a little puzzled, I asked, "What was that all about?" She replied, "The egg timer's broken."